A brand new 7-day login event champion is coming to Raid Shadow Legends, and I thought, as part of the celebration of that and the ongoing community weeks that we'll talk about in this video, why don't we go over the best login champions in the game, ranked from worst to first. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper. Oh yeah, I am Mad Capper, not you, me. This is another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and let's get into it. Let's talk about this. There's a brand new login event champion, and that champion is named, I'm going to show you her name is Chronicler Adlin, and I'm going to show you the actual release deck that we have for this event, and we can discuss it. Now, it's interesting, they're doing a community events weeks, which is really just a login event, a champion that you can choose the skills on, which we'll talk about in a second, and probably a whole bunch of packs that you can spend money on, because that's how Raid celebrates, is by giving them money. Now, the good news is, another login. This has probably been their most banger overall event. Is just these 7-day login champions, these legendary champions are giving. We're not going to talk about the champions you get over here. If we open up the if we open up our daily rewards, you also get login reward champions. We're not going to discuss these champions here. Vizix, one of my favorite. You can see them all here. You've got High Katoon, you've got Baba Yaga, you've got Dark Aethel, Dark Elhain, you've got Lordly Legionary, Syl the Drakes, Tanix Hateflower, Grush, and Vizix. I mean, obviously the big highlights here are Syl the Drakes is amazing, Vizix is amazing. You also had Cleopteryx this way, Gerda, and a couple of one of my Scion, who I absolutely hate, among others. We're not going to talk about those. Instead, I want to talk about simply the 7-day login events. First, let's get back to the champion that is going to be happening now. She is a Chronicler Adlin. She is a Banner Lord of Force Affinity Legendary Support Champion. And just by her personality, we haven't seen her kit yet. We don't know her anything like that as of yet. First of all, she looks cool. She might be my new favorite champion. I really like the Banner Lords. She looks like maybe she's the sister. Maybe she's Ursula's sister, like sister-in-law, right? So it's her brother that I don't know. I'm just making up stuff now, but she looks really neat. I really like the look. And she's a chronicler, and I'm just trying to get, so she identifies potential candidates to be put into a shard. Don't know what that means. That's more lore. But using her magic tome, quill, and eyepiece, so she's got 3 items. She's got a tome, a quill, and an eyepiece. She can quickly transcribe anything she sees, assess the strengths and weaknesses of a target, and incapacitate any threat. So, transcribe anything she sees. Does she have an ability to mimic or reflect, maybe? So you try to put a debuff on her and she reflects it. Or if you try to buff yourself, she copies it, maybe. Can she actually copy the skill? I think that would be amazing. Don't think that's what this is going to be. But that'd be really amazing if she can actually mimic skills. So if you use, Siphi to start, she can actually do Siphi's full A2 ability or A3 ability. Which one's the non-revive? A2 ability. I don't think that's what's going to be. I think it's probably going to be if you put a buff on you, she puts a buff on her. If you put a debuff on her, she puts a debuff on you. It'd probably be something like that, if I'm guessing. Assess the strengths and weaknesses of a target might be interesting. I don't know. Does that, like, you can tell how much is she actually? Are we actually going to find out stats on the other champions? I don't know. That'll be an interesting one to see how they put that out. And incapacitate any threat. Well, that just tells me that she's going to have some sort of crowd control, be it stun, sleep, taunt, provoke, freeze. Maybe she's another polymorph. yeah, let's give it a login champions polymorph. I hope not, but that's what's going on there. So she's going to be updated 14 days. So the first 7 days, you'll get the champion, and then you'll work on 7 days to get the perfect soul for her. 6-star perfect soul? Is a perfect soul only? I thought any perfect soul was... Like, I thought they were all perfect souls. So I'm a little bit curious on that. Aren't these all perfect souls? Like, not just the 6-star? Aren't these all considered? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Because I've never seen them give a 6-star. So I suspect it'll be a 5-star. Like, look, I just bought the 5-star Death Knight. That cost me 100. I've gone back and forth, by the way. I don't know whether it's better to save these up or just buy souls and hope I can pull them, or buy the, like, I don't know whether to buy the soul stones or the essences. I used to just buy the soul stones. I've switched over to buying the essences, and I will see how that comes up. Anyway, neither here nor there. So that is the champion. Also, I do want to mention Vault Keeper Wixel. He is going to be the ability to there's going to be in-game ways to vote on what skill set you want him to have. He's going to have, as we see here, an A3, an A2, an A1, and a passive. And we'll be able to vote on what sort of skill set we want for each of those. That's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how that is. And then that will follow up by being a fusion. I imagine it's going to be an actual original fusion, not the shard style. I could be wrong, but usually they say a shard fusion, a fragment fusion, and they didn't say fragment in this anywhere, so I suspect it might be an original fusion event from May 9th to the 24th. Looks pretty cool. We'll see what it is. And then, of course, we have the much debated Raid Community Awards. We talked about that in yesterday's. We don't need to rehash it. Just know that on May 3rd, I believe it is, there will be an award show along with the winners. There you go. So let's talk about the meat of the video. From first to worst, best to worst, what do I think are the best champions in the game for these free login events? And I gotta tell you, this was more difficult than I thought it would be. It is really different, really difficult. I think all are very good, and I think some of them are very underrated. But let's start with the worst login event champion. Number 7 on my list, and that is, it's got to be simple. It's got to be Alexander, the sharpshooter. Man, this guy, the kit actually reads a heck of a lot better, and I think if you were brand new and logging in, you do get a champion who has a single buff strip and attacks. The problem is this whole Orc and Ogryn tribe factions, they started doing this a little bit, and I thought that meant there was going to be specific content that really focused around this ability. It never came to fruition. And so the problem with Alexander is he's a damage dealer that doesn't quite do enough. He does have a decreased defense and weaken. You do need to book it to get to 3 turns, but it only puts the decreased defense, it puts the weaken on the Orc and Ogryn tribe. Again, kind of a missed opportunity that they didn't put any sort of content that specifically focused on that, and because of that I put him as my worst. He's only a decreased defense. There's more decreased defense weakened champions. There's champions that you get out the gate with other stuff, and more survivable champions to do this. Overall, the freeze is kind of neat. It's 50-50 chance. That can be impactful, absolutely. I don't think he's a bad champion. I think he's a good champion, but I don't think he's a great champion, and that's why we put him at number 7 on the list. After that, number 6, this was tough because I really like this champion. He's definitely got a lot going for him, but he also has a lot not going for him, and that is Rathalos Blade Master. Now we're getting to every login champ from here forward, I believe, is very strong. And I believe he is on that list. The reason why I put him lower than the others is because his utility. This guy is really just a top-end nuker. As all of us who did the free-to-play challenge know, he can be very good. The thing is, he can be so crazy impactful when he hits this 5th skill for 200% more damage. But if you don't hit that, or the rotation happens where it's this rather than, of course, his hardest hitting. But overall, his skill set with the attacking all enemies, he buffs himself. And this is one of the good and the bad. He buffs himself crit damage, but he also buffs himself with increased speed, which can rune tunes. It can get him out of order, those sort of things. So it's not always the greatest ability Plus, it's a decent AoE, but because he's a nuker, he doesn't hit ridiculously hard unless you get that 5th skill. Then he does hit ridiculously hard. I really liked him. I really liked him for the free to play. I just find that outside of really just pure nuking, I don't think he's as good of a wave clear as some of our top end wave clears. Like, I wouldn't take him over Ethos. Ethos, I just know the damage. It's 2 AoEs. You don't have to guess. This has only got 1 AoE, which doesn't make it as good of a wave clear. He really is meant for the arena. And his kit, really, as much as it sounds cool, having to wait 5 hits before you can get absolute nuke damage. Now, the caveat is, again, for new players, you get this guy and you're using him on Dragon, and you get that 5th skill. Especially if you get that 5th skill and it's the A2, it does hit so ridiculous hard because it ignores 25% of the defense, and it's 100% if it's a boss. Also gets you into trouble for Ice Gold. He hits the boss so hard, it triggers and kills everyone. So there's some good and bad with him. I do still like this guy. I still like having him as a champion. If you're getting this guy free, you're going to be happy. But frankly, when I look at all the other champions that you get for free, and we talk about those ones versus this one and the overall kit, I just think that this guy's on near the bottom. So that is number 6. Number 5. Now this is one that I've warmed up to, and I haven't always liked, but definitely Deliana is number 5, and I think I have really slept on this champion. I feel like she's a lot stronger than I give her credit for, and she has an accuracy buff with a passive. So every 1,000 HP she has, she gains 2 accuracy, which really makes her easy to build because she's very high HP. She's she's kind of an HP support champion. She can do some decent damage, but the biggest thing is she has an AoE block buffs for 2 turns, and heals all allies by 5% of their max HP for each block buffs, fills his champion's turn meter by 10% for each block buffs, and I really think this is a great Hydra champion. And I don't believe Hydra was out when she came out, but I do believe that she's very strong for Hydra. I've been meaning for a long time to get around to doing kind of a video on her in the Hydra, but I really like that block buffs. She has a decreased resistance as well. Now, normally I don't like the decreased resistance. I think it's like, why would I do that? I'd rather increase my accuracy because I don't have to have a chance to land. However, because she's getting, you build her with 100k HP, and she's getting this extra accuracy to start, makes it so easy for her to build out accuracy compared to normal champions. So you can still build her very, very fast, very, very tanky, and be able to get those accuracies you need for Nightmare, Brutal, whatever Hydra you're on, which really makes this a pretty good one. It is a single enemy, which is unfortunate, but I mean, you're thinking Hydra, you're thinking who's got the highest resistance. You put the decreased resistance on them, and that's going to allow some of your other champions to be built slightly different. So I do think if you do this properly, it's going to be a really great skill. And then has a leech on an AoE A1. AoE A1, put her in a hex set. Put her in a hex set. She's putting leech down. She's going to help heal your champions. She's got an A3 that heals your champions. She's got built-in accuracy. She's got a block debuffs. Her whole kit just screams Hydra to me. And I think overall it's a really great kit that can be really helpful for any of you trying to beat the Hydra boss. And frankly, if you don't care about that A2, you can ignore it and just go from AoE to AoE with that hex. I mean, that's just a baller champion. So I put her in at number 5, but again, that's a strong 5. You're happy to have Deliana. I think she's been slept on, including by myself, by a lot of people. Number 4 on the list, I gave to another cool champion I thought was really fun. Definitely has some real good use in it, and that is Ronda. Ronda Rousey. Ronda's in there with her flaming fists. Now, this is where we start getting into some really cool abilities. She can be an absolute menace in the arena, and I think she's used up into the end game by people. Live arena, maybe not so end game, but she's definitely a strong counter against some stuff. She has a 15% chance to join an attack whenever an ally attacks an enemy with her default skill. At the start of the round, she places a shield on herself equal to 40% of their max HP. She also attacks all enemies 2 times. Damage increases by 30% if this champion has more than 50% HP. Immune to turn meter reduction effects When the skill is not on cooldown, decreases all turn meter reduction effects used against the champ by 50% when it is. So that means, look, her turn meter cannot be messed with until she goes with her AoE, and then after she goes, it's reduced. Great ability, but this is the real killer. Blocks active, block passive. It attacks one enemy 3 times. It ignores shield buffs, 30% of the defense, so it hits really hard. It locks them out. Cannot be resisted, so you don't have to build her for accuracy. You can just build her as a pure tank. And then she has a 3-hitter A1, which again has a 15% chance to join everyone. I think she's a great nuker. I think she's a situational nuker in endgame content or late game content in Classic Arena, and of course live 3v3. Very strong champion overall, and a really good addition to the free login champions. From here, we go to some other champions that are so more widely usable. And this is a little tough. And let me know if you disagree with this. I would understand. I disagreed with you. See how many times I scribbled yes or no on this. But number 3, I decided to give to Ninja. Ninja was the very first. His kit is so great. He's such a utilitarian. I nearly put him at number 1, and I'll explain why when I get to 2 and 1. Why I didn't put them there. But God, I almost want to put him number 2. I'm gonna change my mind right now. Ninja's moving up to number 2. God, I don't know if this is right, but we're gonna do this. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Artak is number 3. These two are neck and neck. Both of them have amazing kits. Both of them do a lot of cool stuff. I think the difference for me, wow, God, you could argue this for both of them. I use Ninja in a lot of endgame farming content. Like I used to use him in the Sand Devil. I use him currently in Shogun. He's good in Clan Boss. He's good everywhere he goes. He's good. Artak has the same kind of story. He has an HP burn buff is activated, destroys this champion's max HP up to 50%, and then also increases his crit damage, and defense by 1% for each 1% destroyed at max HP, and increases his champion speed and resistance by 2 for each of their destroyed HP. So he gets some cool extra. He's like, oh, you're taking my life away. I will just be stronger. So that's kind of neat. He has an AoE. The biggest thing about him, he has AoE HP burn. He has AoE decrease attack, but also activates any HP burns on each enemy. And he has an AoE A1, which extends the duration of HP burns by 1 turn. Overall, an amazing kit. This guy, HP based, survives. Good for Spider. Good for Hydra. Very strong in certain solo comps or duo comps. I believe he's got a Sand Devil comp, maybe even a Shogun. I don't know about a Shogun. A Sand Devil comp. He definitely Ice Gold. All these kind of hard endgame content where you're trying to duo or solo. This guy's great. He's good throughout the Doom Tower. He is a game changer for anyone. An absolute game changer. I put him behind Ninja, and we'll talk about that when I get there. But it's neck and neck. You see, I changed it on the fly. But overall, just a banger champion. And he was part, of course, the animated series. He's Gallic's father, and a pretty cool dude. So I don't know. You let me know in the comments down below. But I'm gonna put him at 3rd. But this guy is like a top PvE utility knife type champion. Really love him, especially Hydra's where he really his focus is with that HP burn and that ability to put out decrease attack and a triple AoE, which means again put him in a hex set. I believe I actually have mine in a hex set. Put him in a relentless set. Put him in anything. He's gonna do work for you. So that is Artak number 2. We talked about him. We'll talk about him again. The reason why I put Ninja above him is because Ninja, for me, I'm just thinking of where I use them both, and I use Ninja more. I have the opportunity to use either one of these champions in endgame content, and a lot of the times it picks Ninja. Also, I find Ninja does better for me and has done better for me in Centrano. So I've used him in that. Overall, love them both. You could probably argue either way and I'd be okay. The other big thing that puts Ninja can be used in Arena. Now, he's not endgame Arena, but he definitely can help you progression and 3v3. And it's because he's got this AoE freeze. He's got this 3 times at random where he hits the burn and activates it. And he's got a decreased defense on his A1, which is really strong. And he increases his attack by 10% up to 100 and crit damage of 5 up to 25 each time a single enemy is hit by all 3 of Ninja's active skills in a round. This effect can occur multiple times against the same enemy. When fighting bosses, it will increase it by 20% up to 100 and by 10% up to 25. So he's a boss killer. He does so good against bosses. He was instrumental in a lot of endgame Doom Tower content, right? The bosses. He's good for, like I said, clan boss. You can use him absolutely in Hydra. So many areas. Ninja does so much damage. He's so versatile. There's a lot of content out there. And he has some arena usability, which you can't necessarily say about Artak. And I think that might be the difference maker for me. So I put him at number 2. Which is the controversial, I would say, number 1 is Ultimate Death Knight. And the reason why I put Ultimate Death Knight number 1 is very simple. First of all, he's good everywhere. Let's talk about his kit. So he's got a passive, which increases his HP, defense, and speed by 10 for each dead ally. He also has, whenever an ally's attack has 100% chance of completely blocking one hit, decreasing the incoming damage to 0. This champion will receive it instead. It'll also redirect any debuffs to this champion. This guy, we know this guy's passives are amazing. He also managed to put a shield and a continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns, and the shield's proportional to his defense, which you build high defense. He also has an AoE decreased attack and fear. He also has a provoke, and the chances increases against the legendary, and here it actually places a fear on each legendary champion. So he's an anti-legendary killer. He was a free login champion. You can now pull him from shards. Overall, great promo, great champion. It was a really fun promo. The fact that they made Death Knight turn into Ultimate Death Knight is absolutely is banger. That was one of their best ideas. Now, there's a love-hate relationship on this champion. And the reason why I put this champion number 1 is because there's no other free champion in the game that can claim this. Let's take a look at the top players in the game, and we'll see how many of these. Let's play Spot the Free Champion. No free. I mean, I guess the fusion. I don't know if I call that free. Look at that, Ultimate Death Knight. As you go down, now there's a lot of the power champions. There's some really good fusion champions there. There's mythicals. There's top tier champions. You look through here, and you're only ever going to find one truly free champion. And I'm actually surprised there's not more of them. But there's an Ultimate Death Knight. There's an Ultimate Death Knight. And if you look at the end of the week, most times there's going to be probably an Ultimate Death Knight, right? There's no other champion as readily accessible that's as readily usable in the arena. His arena defense is ridiculous. You see my arena defense. I have them too. I basically have very similar to the rest of these guys, just not with 10 billion defense and all +4. But that is how good he is. As a free login champion, this guy's the mainstay in so many defenses. He's also a mainstay in offense. But frankly, I use him in offense all the time if I think I'm going to go second. This guy activates turns for you. He takes away Siffi's ability to put you asleep. He takes away all these hard, heavy single nukes. There's so much about him in Stone Skin. He's just better. He's just so good. And because of that, even though I would say Ninja and Artak are more widely usable for account progression, when it comes to a champion that's been free, to have this much success and impact in the game overall has to put him at number 1. So my number 1 is Ultimate Death Knight. What do you think? Who are your favorite 7-day login champs? Let's also give a honorable mention to my good friends Shaman and Jizzo. Shaman's actually a pretty amazing champion to get free, and there's actually a bit of kind of regret that when these champions go in, they replace Shaman, which, I mean, they're better than Shaman, fine. But often Shaman is your most impactful reviver, and you don't get her free anymore. And sometimes it's a long time before you get a reviver. I can attest. Broadma was my first reviver on my free-to-play account that we did for the competition. So Shaman's actually a lot better than I think people realize. Very strongly used in the very early game because it's a revive champion. And it's a Force Affinity champion. And of course, all your starter champions are Magic Affinity, which makes Shaman very impactful against the starters. Jizzo, he needs some help. I don't think I've ever used him in anything I've ever done. He's not as bad as I make him out to be. He's got some use, especially his provoke has some content in the game. At the end of the day, I think there's a lot better champions than him out there, but you get him 2 weeks in, so it can't be that bad. Anyway, that's my final list. Top 7 in order login champions. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your order? And where do you think this new champion will fit in the list? I'd love to hear your comments. Please let them write freely down in the comment section. Also, if you feel like you want to watch this channel, if you feel like I'm offering any value or just some mindless entertainment, please consider liking, subscribing, following, sharing it with your friends, and hitting that notification button. But as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Please be kind, be safe. We'll see you in the next video.